All right, guys. So the kind folk at Saunderson Security, Richard there, and the guys at Assa Abloy have kindly sent these two locks up for me. So I got them in the mail yesterday, and I thought, okay, that looks great. I don't wonder what that is. And they said you can have these and have a play with them. So one would think that to anyone, a lock is a lock, right? A lock is not just a lock, because to anyone, a lock is a lock that you just put it on, and really, nothing is going to withstand two spanners or a grinder or, a blowtorch. Even if it's liquid, you can't get stuck, kind of thing. But they are very different. So this is the Union Lotto. And we're not going to spend too much time on this, but this one does say it's the yellow MKD, which means it's master keyed. So this which you'll see in the bitting over here, which I thought was great. It's all the same bitting. Generally, that's what comes with the master keyed. So I'm assuming because it's master keyed that the bottom can be opened and it can be rekeyed. But we'll make another video on that. This video is about the Union UN5055. It's KD. It's key different. This says PUP, which would be purple, but when I opened it up, I found to my delight that it's an absolutely gorgeous sort of pink. And I mean, that Union Assa Abloy. So just the general appeal of this lock was like, wow, that is gorgeous. It looks like it's scratched. It's not. It's sort of finished off a little bit, grained like that, a bit like the DeLorean was. A bit like it's extruded or scratched or something. And but like I said, it isn't. I just found it to be a really, really nice, really, really attractive lock. Could feel everything. So that's besides of, that's just me. I mean, for the personal, it's a lock, right? But no, I find it to be great. And when you look at the key on it, first impression is, hey, hang on a second, that's an American key. But here's the thing, there are some differences. It is the same keyway, but you'll notice this shaft is shorter. And that is going to make a very big difference, that I'm going to show you later on in the video. Then when you look at the numbering on it, this is 22165, and this is 65033. So the 6 is kind of at its max here, and the 0 is just a little notch over there right in the middle. So it's quite a brutal sort of bitting, which is good, because you get the full experience of the lock. But it looks like the key pins go 0 to 6, which gives you 7 variants, as opposed to 1 to 8, which gives you 8. So I don't know if obviously the blanks are going to be interchangeable. The shaft difference here is going to make one hell of a difference later on. I'm going to show you. So I think what we're going to quickly do is just look at the different types of spools, the pins, before we go into actual picking it. Because I honestly think that videos like this should be done on a lock that one hasn't opened before. I've got 2 opens on this, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to open it, but I know what to expect. But if you're just going to do, this is new on the market. I haven't found anything online regarding it, anything at all, and hasn't been released in South Africa yet. Is on the price list, but hasn't been put on, should we say, on the shelves. When that goes on the shelf, it's going to be quite expensive. So I don't know. People are, why do I have to buy that? The engineer is going to say, why do you have to buy it? Why is the engineer going to say that? Engineer, because he is making specifications for everything, like on a mine, for example, where there has to be certain properties and levels of security on each lock. For example, the lottos, different colors, an electrical box must have this, how many pins, what type of pins, everything. They're going to get very specific about the lock because the lives are on the line. So the same in ships, and you name it, in your sort of high risk environments, the engineers have to be very specific about everything that goes in there, so nothing comes back on them. And they say, why didn't the engineers think of that? So these guys have now, they've come up with something that's a little bit diabolical. And I first want to talk about the driver pin. So obviously your key pins are, you get your different key pins. That zooms in quite nicely. So you get different kinds of driver pins. You get your straight driver. You get this that's not a straight driver. That's actually a pin and pin straight driver. Looks like it. And then you get your half straight. This is a serrated, so it's got a bit of, so that's supposed to mislead you into thinking, wow, you're gonna sort of press up or press down on the key pin. It's going to press that, and you're going to hear your first click and think, yeah, I've got a set, but you haven't. Then you've got this sort of reverse spool, and this is not including your gins and everything else, your tornadoes. So here's a standard spool, and here's a normal serrated driver pin and a serrated spool pin, even a pin-in pin, which is, this is the other end of it. You can see it's got a little hole. And so that pin goes in there. You get a pin-in pin that is serrated. You get a pin-in pin that is spool. So there are many variants to the different kinds of driver pins and key pins you can get. So, and they all give an anticipated kind of feedback. So when first picking this lock, I thought, oh, okay, let's see. Without opening it first, let's just see what is going on inside. So I had a very long go at it because this thing was giving me feedback that I had never encountered before. So I have decided my weapons of choice will be the multi-pick round medium hook in 0.4 and in 0.6, because you're going to need light tension and you're going to need a little bit of bullying. Now you can't use this multi-pick double-sided wrench, but there's a bit of a height difference there, and that comes into play a lot in this lock, because you need a kind of difference between, or mixture of a floating tension or floating. So with this, it's 50 thousandths, and this is the Reaper that I've sort of cut up and just modified a bit. So you got to get a really, really good snug fit in there, allowing you to manipulate this core with these pins, so that you, because these pins, these driver pins, you really, really got to get around them in some kind of way. You're not going to be able to bounce out an overset, and it's sometimes going to be very, very hard to set. So I kind of like to hold it like that, because then I can just come back and move and adjust my fingers. So I'm sort of holding it on and a little bit down, very light. So you know what they say, nothing on one. We know there's going to be, let me move this light. We know there's going to be nothing on one because we've seen the bitting. So it's quite extreme. And so I'm just going to go very, very lightly. And look, if I can't get it on the first few tries, then what we're going to do is just open it with a key, because this is a key retaining. And I'm using the 0.4. I'm going in with a 0.4 just to get in very, very lightly. Because like I say, this lock does not allow any oversets. It doesn't like to be overset. It won't forgive you with an overset. But that looks like it may have to be bullied a bit. Let's get on to the next one, which I sort of felt a bit of movement in there. And down to the rear too. So it's got a very light, short, there you go, a little click out of that one, which was number 4. A little click out of 5. And I have just sort of with the shaft got pin 1 in position. So let's see if I can do something with pin 2. I am used to pin 2 is well tight. So this is why I'm kind of preferring at times to go with the 0.6 mil from multi-pick, so you can give it a bit of a stab. So I'm feeling what initially might feel like, so I've got quite a bit of force on that, right? And I've got an overset on one. So I'm just going to bring that back a bit. And what I found with an overset on this lock is, you are doomed, eh? You're doomed. You have to kind of like reset the entire lock. I've got a good bit of core movement. Let's check. There's very little core difference between your core movement and when you're ready to open. So I do think I'm set 1, 2. But what I found is, and when we get to gutting with this lock, is that what I think and what's going on in here, there's a little bit of counter. So I encountered this bit of counter rotation, which I'm really, I'm putting a quite a bit of force on it, which tells me that there's something going on in this lock, but I don't know what it is. So I'm physically going to bring it back, and I mean I've sat taking my hand right off this tensioner, and it's retaining its set. I know you can't see too much, and this light, like last night, oh man, that's why I say these things have got to be done on, like, your first attempt at this should be done on video, because you get this okay, he's practiced this lock plenty, he knows exactly. And he comes on video, so 3-minute video, how to pick this American or whatever, your Assa Abloy or whatever your lotto, he knows that lock. So on the pin 5, I've got a reasonable amount of counter rotation that I'm kind of half bullying with the pick and using this finger at the back here to rotate up on the tensioner. So where we are there, what I'm doing here is I'm physically, this finger is holding the tensioner down. This finger is counter rotating for me, and this is what makes this lock tricky, Now there's a difference between confusing and tricky. There's oh boy. So confusing is going to be what serrated pins give you. Tricky is what these driver pins are going to give you. And with the serrated pins, it's designed so that you think you got a set, but you haven't. But the thing is, guys are just used to, there you go, I can feel something happening in there. So I'm even half, and we've got the open. That's lovely because, oh, excuse me. The camera always adds on, what do they say, 10 minutes to the pick. Well, in my case, it adds an hour. So I've got that open. And now we're going to see why I'm getting such diabolical feedback from this particular lock. The key, so there's that small bit of rotation. Your initial rotation is very light, and then it's a very light quarter turn, right? It's not heavy. But here's the thing. Here's problem number 1, is that it's key retaining. In other words, when it's open, it's going to hold that key in until you lock it. So what does that mean to us practically? Well, we've got one on the gate on the farm that is key retaining. So when you get out of the car and your gate key is on your keyring, you got to turn off the car, go out, unlock it, then you come back, the lock's still dangling off there, and you're damaging your car ignition, you're damaging the lock, the key can break over here. I'm not fond of key retaining, but there's a reason for this thing having key retaining, and that's a reason we're going to get into. And so that is basically its design. So this is where the difference in that stem or shaft of the key comes in, because that sits very close to the lock. Now, if this was on video last night, you'd had 2 hours of constant swearing, because I undid this and then I tried to get it out, and the little tab, this thing came off, that popped up. This key remained in the core. The core left, departed from the actuator. It's an example of an actuator. The actuator proceeded to disassemble itself, and I was stuck in this position, and it took a lot, 2 hours of picking up bits off the floor and swearing and begging the light not to run out of, please, just like don't down me. And it was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes went past on the TV before I could get it disassembled, and then I had to reassemble it. So there was a lot more swearing. So it is important to follow these steps when you are planning on gutting a key retaining lock. So first of all, you have to access the screw, right? But you're going to hold it in, and you're just going to, well, I suppose you can get the screw completely out. Very little point, but you do want to make sure that that can, yep, we are apart there. And then you got to lock it back up so that you can, now, this is where the fun starts. The fun in the gutting starts here. You got to move the core around so you can get your key out, and then you're in a safe environment situation to lift this. You see that little tab is going to get stuck there, and we're close to being gutted. So my pinning tweezers are not the same after last night. I'm keeping that in there, and I'm pulling out the core. So there's your core, and now if you look at the tailpiece, so now we ask the next question, and that next question is as follows. Can this lock be bypassed? So what happens with a bypass? Essentially, here's a core, and here is your actuator, and that, let's pretend it's locked. Core sits in there, and the actuator is locked, and it's ready to turn. But you can get a bypass tool past the keyway, past the keys. Now this was a bypass tool till I tried to turn it into a so where are our key pins going that way? I try to turn it into a dimple pick, and you're basically going to get it through there, all the way through and into between the tailpiece and the actuator, and you're going to turn it, and that is essentially supposed to just allow. So when I hold that on, you can see that it is going to allow. Now if you look at the, let's get rid of that stuff before we get very confused. There is a way that you can prevent this from happening, and that is by putting an anti-bypass wafer on the back here. And they don't always come with the locks, so man, we can't pick that up. I got to tell you, it's freezing cold here, so let's do a pin dump over here. This is a good spot for it. It's freezing cold, so my fingers are not moving. So if you do that little wafer on there, wafer washer, whatever you want to call it, and then your actuator sits on top there, you cannot get your bypass driver through, and that's the theory of that. This one is a little bit different, because when you look at the tailpiece on this, it comes out like it protrudes it's got a horizontal, the bit that engages with the actuator, the actual little piece that goes into it. So when you look inside there, let's get some light on it. That tail piece goes into a groove. There you can see a groove right on the bottom. And that groove is what turns the actuator. So that actuator is pretty much part of the tail piece when it goes in. It cannot turn, but it cannot turn without the plug turning. That's the bottom line. So you cannot bypass this lock at all. So there you can have a better look. Bypass ain't going to happen. And I think part of that whole mechanism, the way they've done that mechanism, is why it's key retaining. So, oh, the cat has arrived. The other thing I like about this lock is that it's got one of the, let's get the circlip off. It's got a circlip with a little nib on it. So you don't play spinny when you're trying to gut it. And you see that little nib over there, and that I quite like, you see. So it keeps it in place, because your gut wrenches don't always fit, and then you just end up struggling. So that's quite grand. I like that. Let's see what's inside. Our plug follower obviously now has to, that's why it's got a nice big groove in there for these kind of tail pieces. So you can actually get that tail piece in there. So that, if that was the actuator, that's kind of how it works. So you can't turn that without the plug turning. That isn't going to happen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the, let's just orientate myself here, because obviously this bit can go wrong. What I do like is there isn't too much of a step over there. So you can give it a small rotation and make sure we maintain the rotation so your driver pins don't shoot through. And let's see what's inside. And I can tell you what's inside, but we're just going to pull one of them, one or two. They are all of them. That is number 5 shot off. And that is number 2. And let's get 1 out. And 4. No, I want 3. Give me 3. That isn't going to happen, is it? It's dumped the whole lock. Because that's the 0 cut. Out, little pin, out. So on the key pin side of things, we can see, I'm going to try and zoom in here, because this is where it gets interesting. Well, this is not where it gets interesting. Is they do have a very, very small bevel to the edges. They're not sharp edges, and they're just standard key pins. So that's pretty interesting. You know, I thought, well, okay. So whatever was given us the different feedback was inside, actually inside this contraption over here. I think contraption is a word for it. And let's zoom out. Well, I don't know if this is going to stay in focus, but I'm just going to drop one of them, because what I can tell you is that they're all the same. So here you can see, if we can get focus, no, don't keep up. You can see how the springs are very, very, very light, and that does not help make picking easy at all. I have even shot one of these springs, or lost one, I don't know why, or how. And this is what this lock has revealed to me. Let's pop a spring and see if we can. a very, very short spring, and it's not very, should we say, hard steel. So there it goes. And there's another. So I don't know. Whoop, there goes my light. So let's do a pick for scale. That's how long it's very short, and it's not very, very, very springy. But this is where the real diabolical. This is something I haven't seen before ever. Is on the driver pins themselves. So I'm going to try and get a zoom in. It looks initially like a spool, but inside this spool are steps. Now, this one might be a little bit worn, unless we can just get it in. This camera usually can focus really quite well. So when it gets into focus, you're going to see, if it gets into focus, 3 little steps in it. And these steps, so makes it actually makes them act like those little steps over there. It actually, yep, where did you go? Come back here. It makes it act like a spool pin, but sound like a serrated pin. You can see I've had a go at it. And it's very soft pins also. That's it sounds and it feels like a serrated, but it's like a spool pin, but it sounds like a serrated. So it's a little bit tricky and complex. And to make things worse, the orientation of this differs. So some of them are up and some of them are down. There you can see very clearly what's going on. So some of them are up and some of them are down. And that is what is causing, if you get yourself into overset here, you have to reset the whole lock. And then because the springs are so light, those two work together to make your life a living hell. And some, like I said, some of these are up, some of these are down. I wasn't really paying attention when you got it because that's not what I expected at all. And look, I'm pretty sure, I'm not that experienced. I'm pretty sure that quite a few, this may exist or may not exist. I had a good chat GPT this morning to see what's going on here with this. Is it a step or what is it? I've never seen it before. Let's just put it to you that way. I've never seen a driver pin like that before. So I do think, look, the bevels are not quite like your quickset, which is the older quicksets, which is huge bevels. So it's like a pretty straightforward lock, but it can get tricky if you're not really finding a good binding order or something. You know, it's going to get problematic for you. So that's really, I've found. Oh, let's get back out here and get it back together, and then we can just go through how to reassemble this, because reassembly is also a little bit it in the same way can become very tricky, because that whole actuator. So as I pull the key out, you can hear them one by one clicking up, click, click, click. Up they go. We've lost our clip. There it is. And that's what happens. Once you've got yourself into a false set or overset or a bit of a pickle or wherever you're at, I've actually found it's better to, you know, just reset the whole lock with a key, going in and out, in and out, in and out, to make sure they've all. That's why I haven't operated the lock, because I checked to make sure first that they're all right back up and that they haven't got themselves, because that's how quickly they want to should we say, confuse you. So now this is the trick. You have to get that core slides in, and you got to give it a push to make sure he gets into that actuator and everything stays in place. Otherwise, you're going to cry. There's no two ways about it. And now for our next piece of fun. We want to get, okay, that isn't going to work, access to that screw. When you hear most of the battle is won, but not the war. So you want to get to the screw and you want the lock to return, the core to return back to its position. And I've found that these are quite easy to strip. These, unless you can hold it in position there. Where is that little thing? There you are. Unless you can hold it in position and make sure that you've got, so you want to sort of finger tight it a little bit, very much like a nut, instead of just dropping the screw in and going for it. That way you don't cross thread it and damage it. And snug it up without smashing it up. Your lock is in, everything is good, and there you go. So guys, that is the Assa Abloy UN5055. That's key different. Picked and gutted. And I do hope you found this video interesting. If you did find it interesting, please, if you've seen that driver pin, whatever, leave us a comment. Please like, please subscribe, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what more. I mean, they've got all the colors, but I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of key pin sets they've got. What you can buy your little master lock, making a master key wafers and all that. And playing with this. Honestly, to this point, I've found that there was this has rapidly become my favorite lock. This is genuinely going to make you work for it, and it's going to make things more tricky, whereas these are going to make it more confusing. That's going to make it very tricky. So guys, beautiful lock, lovely company. Assa Abloy is obviously great, and I'm very happy with that. So next we're going to move on to this lotto and see what that brings us. Thank you for watching.